about fear. When I was growing up, you could have described me as a mouse. I was shy, I was timid, I was quiet. I didn't want to draw attention to myself. And partly that's my character. And I was an only child, born into two parents who loved me dearly, but they were terribly risk-averse. And my dad was a bank manager, for goodness sake. And that's back when banking was safe. And think more Captain Mannering rather than Wolf of Wall Street. And I got to stay that shy mouse. I tried tap dancing once, and the teacher shouted at me, and I ran out, in floods of tears, never to return again, and nobody made me. And it's probably no surprise to hear that I was bullied at school. I was tall for my age, I was overweight, I had those really thick rimmed glasses that you had back in the 80s, and the bullies were really imaginative. And I got called things like Four Eyes, Fatty. And because my surname was Leg, no, of course they didn't call me Leggy, did they? They called me Eggy. And I think when you're in that sort of situation, the world can be really, really scary. When you're a child, you're a mouse, you're quiet, and you want to get on. But there's no guidebook, is there? There's nothing that tells you how to behave, how to react, and how to get on in life. And as a teenager, I started to develop coping strategies. And some worked, and some didn't. It's probably no surprise to hear that I was pretty studious. I did reasonably well at school. And, you know, when you go to college, you have to stand up and give a presentation, give a talk, and stand up in front of people. And that can be really scary when you're a mouse. And one of the things that worked for me was preparing really, really well. And you may be able to tell that it's a strategy that still works quite well today. And then there's always those strategies that don't work so well, aren't there? The strategies like, you know, when I had to do a presentation or had to do something that scared me, I would internalise my fear. I would, you know, have sleepless nights, upset stomach, and the occasional cry in the toilet. You know, anyone else been there? Yeah? I'm glad I'm not the only one. And that's a strategy that continues not to serve me so well today as well. The thing is, when you're a mouse, especially when you're young, it can be really, really painful. You know, I wanted to make something for myself. I wanted to travel. I wanted to achieve big things. But it was so easy to put them on the back burner and not tell anyone. Now, there is a time I am going to share with you. It is a little bit embarrassing. When I was 18, I fancied this boy at work. And I thought, I really want to ask him out. How do I do it? And I confided in one of my friends. And she said, I'm going to tell him unless you ask him out. How dare she? But I did. But I did it in the mouse way. So I ran up to him after work one day, I popped a note in his pocket and ran away before he could say anything to me. I think when you're a mouse, you want to, certainly for me anyway, I thought my work was going to speak for itself. I thought I could do a good job. I thought that I could hide under the radar. I thought I could hide in a hole. And I thought everything was going to be okay. And in the intervening years, a lot of what I did that took me out of my comfort zone was because I was forced to do so, rather than it coming actually from myself. So there I was one day, doing pretty well at work, I thought my work was speaking for itself. I thought I was getting on okay. And then one day my boss said to me, Karen, I wish you'd speak out more. A seemingly innocent comment from somebody I respected. But it made me think. You know, it can be so painful if you don't do things. And I realised it wasn't just about speaking up in meetings. I needed to show up more in the world. I needed to be seen, I needed to be heard. And it was time for this mouse to start squeaking that little bit louder. And I think whenever you want to make any change in your life, it can be really hard to do it by yourself. You have these big ideas, big things you want to achieve, but unless you get support to do it, you're less likely to actually go ahead and take any action. So I did what a lot of people do in that sort of situation, is I got myself a life coach, or at least more people do it now. And I started working with this lady, and we started to look at my strengths, the things that I was good at. Who would have thought the mouse was good at something? I started to look at what is my purpose, what is my passion, what is my vision, what are my goals, what are my dreams, what do I want to achieve? And I think the thing is, when you start articulating things out loud, you're more likely to achieve them when you've got other people supporting you each step of the way. And then I thought, I quite like this coaching lark. I could do this. Why couldn't I help people who were also, they were a bit like me, they had these big dreams, these big visions, but thought, I can't do it, I'm not going to do it. And in 10 short months from that conversation with my boss, within that 10 months, I set up my own business and I trained as a coach. So I did. But there's a huge difference between training as a coach and having your certificate and whispering, hey, I'm a coach, where nobody hears you, to actually running a successful business, isn't there? A huge difference. And in those early days, I had some really lucky breaks. But the harsh reality is you have to be able to afford to live. The harsh reality is you have to be able to pay the bills. And running a business isn't something that comes naturally to many people like myself who came from the corporate world. So I thought, I'm not going to be deterred by this. How can I learn the secrets to running a successful business? And back at the time, I was doing my NLP Masters, and I had the opportunity to spend some time with some really successful coaches. I learned their secrets, I interviewed them, I spent time with them. And I started to put what I was learning into place in my own business. And I was getting really great results. And I thought, well, I can't keep this to myself, can I? I need to share it with people. So I played to one of my strengths and I decided to write a book about it, as you do. And I did. So what did I learn from these coaches? Well, there were some main really key things I learned. The first thing I learned is that find a role model. Find somebody who does what you want to do really, really well and learn from it. They may be a coach, they may be a mentor, or someone that you just aspire to, maybe a celebrity, or someone you think, I'd like to be a little bit more like that. But then look at how you can put it authentically into your business so you're still you. I looked at the importance of mindset and belief when it comes to success. And even if you don't have confidence in spades right now, it's something that can be developed. It's something that you can learn over time, you can put into place, and the more you do something, the more it will become a natural strength. The thing that you may have felt really fearful of a year ago, you stretch your comfort zone, you do that a little bit more, and you suddenly realise you're ready to go and do it. Probably a bit like standing up here today. So I also learned that I wasn't the only person to face fear. I wasn't the only person to feel like a fraud, to feel like an imposter, to feel that one day I was going to be found out. A lot of people feel like that, who'd have thought? And one of the things one of my interviewees said to me, she said, always trust you come across better than you think. And those people you put in high regard or you put on a pedestal, they have the same squishy insides as the rest of us. And it's something that's always sat with me. And I think there's two phrases that can encapsulate everything I learn. As Nike said, just do it. And as the late Susan Jeffers said, feel the fear and do it anyway. Now, I must admit, when I was writing that book, I did feel fear. I did. I went through 3 months of procrastination thinking, who am I to write a book? What if people don't like it? What if it doesn't sell? What if I get bad reviews? All of those things were going through my mind. But then I had these 11 coaches who were waiting for me to publish it. And I knew that I had to do it. And thank goodness. And I think, in a way, I was hiding behind their words in terms of the book because I was sharing their knowledge and expertise. But actually writing it just gave me that courage to step up and become more visible. And I think that is one of the biggest things I learned. And there are times when you do have to fake it until you make it. Sometimes you have to act as if, and sometimes you just have to do crazy things, don't you? And I ask myself questions like, what would life look like if I was braver? What would life look like if I lived life to the full? What would life look like if I didn't care what other people thought? Well, I was just about to find out. The following year, the Mouse embarked on a project called A Year to Live, and I started to face some of my personal fears. I thought, in for a penny, in for a pound, right? Let's go for it. And I signed up to do a parachute jump, I went skiing for the first time, I signed up to do a charity trek to Machu Picchu, and I became a firewalk instructor. Just a few minor things to get you going. But they didn't come without their troubles. When I was in Peru, I landed up in hospital with altitude sickness. When I did my first ski trip, I did an almighty wipeout and had bruises all the way down the left side of my body. And just imagine me going up in the plane, shaking. I'm petrified of heights, by the way. And I was really, really scared. And when they asked who wants to be out the plane first, it was like, me, I'm going. So just imagine me now, we're shuffling through the plane, getting right to the end, tightly, very tightly attached to my instructor, by the way, he was a really nice guy. And I'm there, and I'm ready to go. And I'm looking out into the vast expanse of sky in front of me. Oh my God, I'm so scared. Who am I to be doing this? Who am I to be jumping out this aeroplane? And I thought back to that child hiding behind her mother's skirts. And I thought back to that child who was bullied. And with that, I jumped. And that courage started to turn into exhilaration as I jumped out of that plane. And I screamed. Finally, the mouse was roaring. But I was reminded that year why I did the Year to Live project. My dad was diagnosed with cancer for the second time. And one day he whispered to me, Karen, I might not have a year. And that's just such a realisation that life can be short, none of us know what's around the corner. And our fears really can simply become an inconvenience rather than a roadblock. Now you might think my story ends there, but it doesn't, not quite anyway. You know, I've learned that when it comes to fear, when the push to doing something is stronger, the more likely you are to do something. The more likely you are to stretch your comfort zone and do those things that scare you. And I wasn't just writing my own books anymore, I was helping other people with theirs. Because I know what it's like to want to be seen and want to be heard, having a really important message and not being sure how to get that message out there. I think we've all been through something in life, whether it's trauma, pain, difficulties, or so much in life. And maybe you want to share that message to make a bigger difference in the world, to help other people, or reach more people who you know will benefit from your message. And who knows, you might need somebody to help. I believe that fear doesn't exist without courage, and courage doesn't exist without fear. And when you overcome that fear and turn it into courage, you could change yours and other people's lives forever. Now, I'm no longer jumping out of planes and walking on hot coals, but I'm still doing things that scare me. As you can imagine, like standing up in front of you here today, because it does. And one of my coping strategies was to prepare really, really well. And I was wide awake at 3 o'clock this morning going through my talk, as you can imagine. I think we all feel that fear, don't we? And we have that choice whether to turn it into courage. And you never know what might happen when you do it. You know, that boy that I mentioned that I asked out when I was 18, he did go on to become my husband. And my dad never did have that year. But knowing that he's looking over me, championing me every step of the way, is one of the things that keeps me going. And some people have asked me, what's happened to the mouse? Well, you can probably tell she's still here. I just now make the decision, is it time to hide and squeak, or is it time to roar? Thank you.